This is the first video in a series that shows how to set up, configure, test, and debug the Multivalue Server Protocol, or MVSP, on D3 and mvBase. In this video, we'll cover what MVSP is and how to set it up. Other videos will cover configuration, testing, patching, and debugging MVSP. There is also a video on setting up MVSP to use an SSL connection. The Multivalue Server Protocol, or MVSP for short, is a series of programs running on D3 or mvBase that are called through a special Telnet Listener by applications written using our .NET and Java APIs. That Telnet Listener listens by default on TCP port 9000. The MVS Toolkit was the first, and in my opinion the coolest, application written using the Java API. This MVSP tutorial focuses mostly on the toolkit. Any API-specific information may be presented in a separate video series later on. MVSP.main is the program that sits and listens for requests. These requests can be things like running AQL commands, opening files, reads, writes, deletes, and calling catalog subroutines, which in my opinion is the most useful thing MVSP does. Once done with the request, the output is sent back to the requestor. The major difference between MVSP on D3 and mvBase is that mvBase must use the MV workstation to set up a special Telnet listener. The slide shows how this special Telnet listener is set up. The most notable field is the startup string at the bottom, which makes sure that the process logs to MVSP, then executes mvsp.main. Another significant difference is that all subroutines called by MVSP on D3 must be flash compiled. Initial setup of MVSP is very easy. When you log to the MVSP account for the first time, a program called mvsp.setup is run and asks you some questions. You are first asked what TCP port to use for the listener, the default being 9000, so unless you have a special reason to run on another TCP port, just hit enter. Then you are asked if you want MVSP to use an SSL connection. MVSP over SSL is very rare, so unless you need an SSL connection, just hit enter for the default of no. On Windows systems only, you'll then be asked if you want MVSP to start when D3 boots. I'm not sure what the default is, but I always answer yes. Next, the program runs and sets up MVSP. On Windows systems, the MVSP menu is now run when you hit enter. On Unix systems, you must enter M at TCL to get to the menu. If you decide at any point that you want to change any of the answers you gave, you can run mvsp.setup from TCL in the MVSP account. In the next video, we'll cover configuration, testing, and patching of MVSP. If you have any questions about any of the content we've covered so far, please contact Rocket D3 support.